on, everyone? Thank you so much for watching today. My name is Savannah, and if you're new here, welcome. Thanks so much for stopping by. We're in Planet Zoo again with another speed build, and this time this is a one-off speed build for the southern white rhino. So this is the very last animal in the Africa pack that I have to build for, because we've done a one-off habitat for all of the other animals so far. Like I said, this being the last one. And to be honest, I've held on to this one for quite a while because I actually started this habitat before the Africa pack actually officially launched. And I've kind of just had it in my back pocket, and it took me a while to finish. I got distracted. I got distracted with some other things and started working on some other builds, and then eventually just came back to this one. So it's a fairly simple habitat in that there's not too much to it. I leave the guest area fairly blank because I like for you guys to be able to fill in your own guest areas. I'm going to try to put this up on the workshop. I honestly haven't played with it yet, but the water worries me. The water and the terrain on this one, I don't know if you could see by the thumbnail or by the little intro cinematics that you watched, but it does have a little water area, and sometimes that just kind of gets funky with habitat blueprints, but we'll see. Yeah, if it's up on the workshop, it means I got it to work. If it's not, then I couldn't get it to work, so apologies. But we're starting off with the guest area here. My idea was to do this big circular guest viewing area, and I almost thought before starting this recording, I was trying to think back because it was so long ago. I was actually using one reference picture that was just of this circular guest area. I'm still getting the hang of the circular rotation or the rotational symmetry, whatever you call it. So this one took me a little bit to figure out, and I actually had like 3 or 4 takes before this, before it actually worked out, and I cut out a bunch of those before because it would have just been me trying the same thing over and over again and it not working. But I eventually had to make the roof and then the ground separate, and then this here took me the longest because my mouse kept skipping, and so I was trying to do those really fine movements, but when you get further away from the movement mechanism, the circle that's there or the X, Y, and Z coordinate mover, it gets a little bit less precise and a bit shaky. So this took me forever. Fortunately, it's sped up in the video, so you guys don't have to wait forever, but for me to do it took forever. And then I have this very plain looking circle, ta-da! And then moving on to the habitat. So that was the first thing I wanted to tackle because, like I said, I was looking at a reference picture and it had this kind of circular viewing area kind of sort of sticking out over some rocks with some water below. Now I know the rhinos can't actually swim, but the water in this habitat should hopefully be more or less like wading height for them, so they can go in, you know, splash around and get a drink of water, and then that's about it. So they're not going to be swimming in this. It's a little bit deeper as you get towards the guest area, but it's okay. I figured it would just keep the rhinos back a little bit. And then just using, of course, my favorite rocks, the aquatic pack rocks, and I actually don't recolor them in this one. I leave them the kind of default tan color because I think it works really well. Adding some fences to make sure that nobody, or if you do rather, accidentally fall over the railing, you're not going to go splashing into the rhino's water. So just a little bit of some safety rails. And not too much to this one. Like I said, it's a fairly simple habitat. It really only took me so long because I got distracted with other things. If you guys haven't already caught it on the channel, I've started a brand new series with 3 other creators. Zoof, Beyond Drew TV, and Estan Wolf are all helping me in the new project Pine Mountain Sanctuary, and episodes 1 through 3 are already out. We like cranked them out. We are having so much fun building in that project. I actually just built in it for another 2 hours earlier today, working on the next habitat that will hopefully come out actually a week from when I am recording this, so next week sometime, and we're just having so much fun because it's a brand new project, brand new theme, and then working with other content creators is super inspiring. So I'm really excited that all three of them signed up and are on board with that. So if you haven't caught it yet, there is a playlist on my channel that will have all of the episodes in it, so you can start with episode 1 and it'll automatically take you to 2 and 3, and then 4 should be coming out on Zoof's channel. I believe he said on Wednesday. Their channels will be linked in the description of the first episode that's on my channel, so if you want to head over there and watch it, I highly recommend it. Other than that, I haven't been up to too much, just kind of working on Pine Mountain Sanctuary, and then I did also jump on the diorama bandwagon that Rudy started, because I think it's a really cool trend, and it just took me a while to kind of catch up because this last week flew by and I did not have any extra time coming home. It's also been like 1,000 degrees in my office, and even now still sitting here, it's like 80 degrees inside and it's miserable. So I'm restricted to recording and playing when it's not that hot, which means I either have to stay up really late or wake up really early, and I don't like waking up really early. So it means staying up really late, and if I have work the next day, I don't typically do that. Otherwise, I'll be a zombie and I won't be able to function. But yeah, so that should be coming out on the channel fairly soon in the next couple days, I think, as long as I can get it all wrapped up and finished for you guys. And then I do have another Sims 4 speed build coming out as well. Built another little cottage house, and then Tully Zoo on Friday. So that's what this week for the channel looks like. If you are watching this video when it comes out, the day it comes out, that is kind of what the week looks like. So what you see so far in the guest area is pretty much what the guest area ends up looking like. Like I said, I kept it really plain. I tried to throw down some benches at one point, but then it just, I don't know, it just didn't look right, and I don't really like doing guest areas. I really like building habitats. So that's what we're going to focus from here on out. So taking those aquatic rocks and making kind of like a encasing for the food. I see this a lot in real zoos where they kind of like make a little facade for the food and the water to make it look like it's in like a natural environment and kind of mask it from the guests, but that's where they'll put the food and the water. I'm going to start working on the barrier now, and I love those fever trees. I know I've said it before, but you can see one to the right there, and I do end up adding one more. I love how they look and the texture that they have with like the thorns and the style of leaves. I just really like it, and I think it fits the aesthetic really well. Oh, I guess I do take that one. I think I put another one there. There ends up being 2 fever trees on this side, I believe. But then doing some rock work around the side. The sides of the habitat are rocks, and then the back of the habitat actually gets one of my fences that I made in a fence pack that is up on the Steam Workshop. I now have 3 fence packs that are out. I have 2 Africa themed fence packs and then a North American themed fence pack. I'm having a lot of fun making fences, so I figured I'd just upload those for you guys. There we go. I added the second fever tree in there. But yeah, so anyway, the back of it gets very simple fencing. I'm trying to keep the habitat very minimal as far as foliage goes, thinking that these white rhinos are going to be somewhat destructive, rubbing their horns on things, and just overall kind of would stomp down any of the foliage that you would try to put down. So I do add some grass here and there throughout the habitat just to give it a little bit of interest and a little bit of detail, but not too much in trying to keep it very realistic, I guess, for lack of a better word, as to what the rhinos would actually have. Speaking of realism, covering up some of these trees to help prevent some damage to them by the rhinos, just with very simple logs and ropes. Ooh, and actually, now that I'm looking at this, I completely forgot to put those on the workshop for you guys. Those are a blueprint because I brought them over to Tully Zoo to use in that rhino habitat. And I told you guys during the live stream that I would put them on the Steam Workshop for you guys, and then I never did. So apologies. I'm going to try to write down a note right now so that I can remember to do this after I'm done recording. Perfect. Okay, great. Note is written. I will try to put those up on the workshop right after I'm done with this so that you guys can play with them. Very simple. I made 2 different iterations of them with 2 different trees, or maybe 3 different trees. Now I don't remember. But if you want to replace it, it's very easy to just click on the tree, delete it, and then put whatever tree you want in the center. There's a couple of these types of things up on the workshop. I think there's a metal one too that I've seen people use. Very common in zoos, right, to protect the trees and things like that from damaging and destructive animals. So I'll put those up so you guys can play with them. But moving on, more and more and more rocks, all the rocks. This is where I actually create the fence that's in the fence pack. So this is the first time I'm creating it. I know when you've seen it before, like Estan's used it and I've used it in other builds, but this was the actual creation of the fence. So we're just making this very simple. I'm going to add some rope here and there, kind of twisting the pieces. Something that I suggest to people a lot is that when you're doing something that's repetitive like this, you're moving one object over and over and over again and duplicating it, make sure to rotate it, flip it upside down, kind of sort of tweak it so all of these are not perfectly vertical. Some of them are slightly off because it gives it just that much more realistic look. And then you can see I'm alternating the ropes with it as well. So I'm not using the exact same rope piece on every single one of the wooden beams because it gives it a little bit of variety and makes it look far less just tiled, far less repetitive, because the textures in Planet Zoo look fantastic, but when you repeat them over and over again and you have the same object next to each other, it gets this really tiled look and it kind of brings you out of the realism a little bit. So doing those just very teeny tiny things can really help. The other thing that I could have done is I could have changed the color very slightly on some of the poles, thinking that maybe some of them are a little bit more weathered than others. Maybe some of them are brand new because they broke and had to be replaced, something like that. But just those little details that you think about can really help add a little bit of realism and then a little bit of just detail and extra to the builds. So keep that in mind when you're building and anywhere that you can do that. It's a good idea to do that. One of my favorite things to do. Here we are adding just a little bit of barrier on the side because where I do want to add foliage would be where the rhinos would not be able to reach. So those pillars in the ground are meant to resemble a barrier so that the rhinos cannot go past that and get into the foliage. It's my way of giving the habitat some background, giving the habitat a backdrop, I guess, so that it still seems interesting. It's still got some detail. It's still got stuff to look at, but without actually having foliage in the actual habitat. And then doing some terrain work here, so painting the entire thing with grass and then going back through and painting on dirt where I think the rhinos would walk most often. I do end up, this coming up here is right where I take a big break because basically I did this habitat in 2 main chunks. I did the first half, which you're watching here, and then in just a minute we'll do a jump and a cut to the second half of the habitat. Right here we are moving on to the backstage area because like I said, I started this habitat right when the Africa pack got sent to me. Thank you to Frontier for giving me early access a few months ago when it came out. And then I took a really long break and then I came back and built this building back here. Not really working off of anything as far as a reference, but just kind of doing a very plain and simple backstage area as, like I said, kind of a backdrop for the habitat. The things I struggle with in these one-off habitats is that they're not part of a full-on zoo, so there's nothing beyond the habitat for you to look at. And when that's the case, it's really hard to make the habitat somewhat interesting because it's just kind of a vast blank background. So adding a little bit of trees or a building or something else behind your habitat can really help give it a nice backdrop and make it look a lot more interesting. So that's what we're doing here. If I do end up being able to get this onto the workshop, it'll be a blank building for you to put whatever facilities you want in there. I think right now I only put that little trading center in there because that's the only thing I needed to get rhinos in the habitat to take the end cinematics. And when I'm building like in a one-off habitat build like this, that's really all I care about. I don't care about the wellness for the animals or anything like that because I'm not actually playing the game. So I literally just put down exactly what I need in order to get those cinematics, which basically is just a trading center. But other than that, we don't have too much more to go. I'm going to finish up this building. I'm going to throw down a few more trees. This was a nice, quick, easy one for you guys today, so I really do hope you enjoyed. I don't mention it too often, so I'm going to go ahead and mention it now. If you are interested in following me elsewhere, I do have both a Twitter and an Instagram, as well as a Discord server. So if you're interested in seeing what I'm up to behind the scenes, things I'm working on, my dogs, my cats, my pets, and just life in general, the links down below to all of my social medias are there, and you can follow me with that. In our Discord, we do run both community build contests as well as community zoos. We just started our first ever community zoo about a week ago, and it's going really well, so we will definitely do that more in the future, but you do have to be a part of the Discord in order to participate. So if you're interested, go ahead and join in over there. And then as always, the normal YouTube-y stuff. If you are enjoying this build, go ahead and leave a like. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. A comment lets me know what you think and what you'd like to see next. And then you can always share it with your friends if you do like this and enjoy it. Share it so that they can see. But moving on to the very last thing, because I also did forget, my new favorite thing to do is build these slidey doors for like elephants and rhinos. So these big doors on hinges. So we're just building a little door here out of the Africa door that came in the Africa pack, one of my favorite pieces because I love the wood and the detail on it. But doing this little door as an implied area where the rhinos would be able to be taken back and forth into that building, because the rhinos are not going to fit through the normal keeper gate. They are far too big. So yeah, so that's the very last thing we do. So with that, I don't have anything else for you guys. Keep your eyes on the channel for a couple more videos this week, and I will talk at you guys in the next one. Bye!